So after the morning sitting of Tynwald, the very first question on the order paper, which I was interested to see where they placed it, was a question that at one stage you weren't going to be allowed, then it had to be refined, there were some juicy issues, all sorts of things. Obviously we're clearly talking about what's been going on in the Ranson affair and the appeals. You were dog like a bone on this one this morning. You obviously took some advice, because this is kind of minefield, isn't it? You need to have some legal help in the background to know what you can and can't ask.
I think my line of questioning was, well, nothing was rejected, so it was very clear what I was going to do. I needed to know what his involvement was about the process. It was nothing to do with the actual hearing itself, and nothing to do with appeal or the actual Ranson case. It was what was the Chief Minister's involvement in that, and what effect did that have on the decision to appeal. And I think it was important to ask those questions, and from a perspective of we now know that the DHSC made that instruction to Callan Wild. It was not the Chief Minister. But what we don't have clarity on is, well, we know for a fact that through the Rob Collister report into his sacking, we know for a fact that the members and the Minister initially didn't agree with the appeal. And ultimately, the DHSC appear to have acted without that concurrence from the members and the Minister. So that concerns me. What also concerns me definitely is that Mr Collister, in his question to the Chief Minister this morning, highlighted that he wasn't copied in any of the communication.
And he was the Minister.
And he was the Minister. So in actual fact, does this signify that perhaps there was some undermining of the opinion of the Minister? I don't know, but it certainly doesn't bode well that if the Minister isn't copied in a correspondence on something as important as this.
It brought up more questions almost than answers, didn't it?
It did. It has definitely brought up more questions. There is also the further question in the fact that the appeal could have, I've written it down here for the actual part of it. It's the application, the appeal application, the skeleton, but that can always be withdrawn at any point. So that means that there was ample chance for actually the paper to go to the Council of Ministers to get their opinion on whether there should be an appeal. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe that did actually happen. So the appeal could have been withdrawn if the Council of Ministers had decided that they didn't agree with that. But the point of view was that of the Chief Minister, they should proceed. So was that point of view then used as a reason to not bring that to the Council of Ministers?
The part of the FOI that I put in, the bit actually got out from the Minister at the time, Mr Collister, said it was excellent advice he'd received from the people representing, which was the private company, not the AGs. And that advice was not to go ahead. It still seems not to add up for a lot of people.
It does, and that was also my point of questioning as to what legal advice was the Chief Minister receiving and by whom, and he confirmed that was from the Attorney General's office, and they were solely conflicted on giving advice on that because they actually lodged the appeal back in August.
How are you going to pursue this? I think you got a great interest in this, like so much of the public. I don't know if that's quite got across to other people, because it wasn't a big uproar this morning. There was you and two others involved. It didn't seem to really catch the attention of a lot of people.
It felt like a tennis match. I could see all faces sort of, going one way and looking the other way. It was to see what the responses and what the next question was going to be. From a perspective of how we pursue, how we continue, how we keep asking these questions, we will keep asking these questions. I certainly will. I've got more now that I want to progress with. But the most important thing is when this does come to a finalisation, that we get assurances from the Chief Minister that all the doors are open, and we can have our answers. And certainly Mr. Glover's question about what was the public interest, the reason for the public interest into why the appeal should go ahead. And that's how we should be acting as MHKs and as ministers. We should be doing everything in the public interest.
And it seems there's incredible interest from the Chief Minister and surrounding people in what is nothing to do with them, really. This is a private person dealing with the department, admittedly, but the interest seems to be out of all proportion to what it should be for what it was.
So you're absolutely right. Let's just face facts. The Chief Minister sent an email giving his point of view. Yes, in all legal terms, he had no, that doesn't have to be taken. But was it, did that give the green light to the DHSC that someone, somewhere, was saying, yes, pursue this? Because from the members' point of view, they didn't agree with it. From the minister's point of view, I understand he didn't agree with it. And also, Callum Wilde alluded to, certainly in the courtroom, they didn't know why they were there.
Which is the classic, isn't it? They didn't know themselves why they were there.
Seems to indicate that possibly they didn't agree with it either. So the legal advice that was coming from anywhere would have been from the AGs. Was that appropriate? And was it appropriate that they sought advice from the Chief Minister? Just to know his point of view. Was that appropriate?
Even today, having the AG sitting up there with involved potentially with the subject that they are very much centre on this, aren't they? And they should have remove themselves from it, do you think, maybe?
No, I think they didn't speak about it, so I think that's fair enough. I think there's definitely conflicts. We're all probably conflicted in some way in many topics, but as long as you make that conflict aware, that's important.
I guess it's good governance. This is all coming down to transparency, the openness, honesty, you name it. It just seems a lot of smoking mirrors and a lot of deflections still being seen by you, maybe you, but certainly me and the public.
Yeah, we're here to act for the public. The criticism that we get as MHKs is valid. That's one of the reasons why I looked at, becoming a politician, because I was tired of seeing, the smoke and mirrors, and I just want real answers. And you know what? If someone has taken advice incorrectly and taken an opinion incorrectly, then they just need to put their hands up and say that and say why. But unfortunately, these things have consequences to them. There's a cost to the taxpayer. So
finally, then, do you think you will get the answers you're looking for eventually? I mean, you'll come back on this, I presume. Do you hope that someone will tell you what has gone on?
I hope, yeah.
Join the dots.
I join the dots. We need the evidence. We need to know what telephone calls were made. It's not just emails. We need to know what telephone calls were made, to whom, when, and was this in some way some kind of encouragement to go ahead with the appeal, or was it just pure do what you want to do, Minister, do what you want to do, Department? Very different to my opinion is this.
I just should ask, how do you think the Chief Minister handled himself today?
I think he handled himself very well. I think he was very clear and concise. I kept my questions very clear and concise for him to make it easy for not just ourselves but for the general public to understand what was the line of questioning. My only disappointment, I guess, was that he pushed on. It was the DHSC that made that decision, but that really in itself just said everything. That meant that it didn't have the concurrence of the Minister nor the members.